So welcome to Paranormal Perspectives, episode 5. I keep saying I can't believe it already and all that, but you never know where things can go. So we have Tammi here tonight with us. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's so nice to see you. I haven't seen you. It must be what? About a year and a half, 2 years, maybe?
Yeah, about so. Yeah, so we kind of was learning in a circle a while ago, and you provided some amazing evidence kind of even back then. But I think the main thing also was just like the positive energy you brought to the group, and the fact that I know you have quite an interesting story to share. Hence why I kind of wanted to ask you to take part in this, and I hope you maybe can share a bit of your kind of way of seeing things and share a bit of the magic that you kind of have with you as well with the world, really. And it's simply just about meeting other mediums, really, and getting to know who they are, because essentially we are quite normal people. Comes as no surprise. We're quite normal. We will pay our taxes, go to work, go to the toilet. It's all quite normal. But yeah. And we also have Christine here as well, who's been on many of my episodes. Another wonderful medium. So, how are you doing, Christine?
I'm good. Good to be here. Great to see you, Tammi. Great to see you, Kieran.
Yeah, we all were studying together in the same group, so it's kind of nice to have the crew. You say crew when it comes to medium? Crew back together. The gang? No, it doesn't sound so great.
Whatever you want to call it.
Tribe, yeah. Tribe's good. I like tribe, actually. So yeah, just going to start, if it's okay, Tammi, just kind of ask you, like, very simple but quite profound question. What does being a medium mean to you?
What does it mean to me? Well, logically to me, it just means having a connection to the other side. So being a medium to me is just a way to connect people with their past over loved ones, providing proof and evidence that life happens after life and that our loved ones are always around, maybe just in a different form, not in the physical form. It's just giving evidence that the soul lives on, and it's having a deeper connection with the higher realms, really.
It's precisely that. There seems to be like an agreed commonality between mediums, I've noticed, because it's not as if we've kind of gone to the same school to be taught the same definitions. We all tend to say the same thing where, in my way, I tend to say, like, we're like a radio, basically. We receive a signal, we have to interpret that signal and try to communicate that signal in a different way, where digital radios will be receiving digital signals, ones and zeros, and they have to convert those ones and zeros into kind of sound, and sometimes video as well. Depends obviously which device you have. But ultimately that tends to be our job, really. It's just we're just conveying the message. Don't shoot the messenger. One of the expressions I think of sometimes. Sometimes what we say doesn't make sense at times, but that can sometimes come down to the experience of the individual medium, though. But it can also be down to the message being conveyed, because I don't know, certain beings, I suppose, and certain spirits can have different levels of ability and experience in terms of how to communicate. So it's a bit of a collaboration, I suppose. So I think that's great. So would you say you agree, Christine? Would you have a different way of seeing things?
No, I think I'm with Tammi. It's having that great of understanding, and I think it's a privilege as well to be able to bring something forward to somebody that needs it. And I was taught early on that, you're about God's work, whatever that is. Remember what you're doing. Don't upset people. And that's a privilege, because we're talking to people. But being a medium, it's like you say, Tammi, it's about knowing that there's that extra. We're all part of something bigger. And it's lovely. It's really lovely. And we're not all, we're not all. We've had a bad press, haven't we? Over the years. Not great.
Yeah, it's pretty normal now. Modern mediumship in this world. But I love that you added that, because that's also something that's so close to my heart, is the ethics of mediumship, how to deliver the messages, what you would say, how you're going to word the images that you're seeing or the words that you're hearing. So I love that you brought that up. It is a privilege, but it's also a big, you've got an ethical responsibility to do it in a kind manner, and you've got a responsibility not only to the spirit but the person in front of you from a safeguarding perspective as well.
Absolutely. So how old were you then when you realised you were being drawn into this Tammi? Sorry to go.
I've got an unusual story I'm getting to know, because I didn't know about this sort of. I was definitely a very sensitive child, had a very deep connection with animals, and spent a lot of time by myself. But I never had any visitations or anything like that. So literally, when I moved to the United Kingdom 4.5 years ago now, it happened only started happening in the United Kingdom when I got here.
Oh, do you think there's something about this country that kind of does that for you? Was it just happened to be coincidental because you were transitioning from one part of the world to the other? Was that transition almost like a catalyst of sort that started there? Is there something about this place, do you wonder?
I think it was just a perfect storm. So COVID 2020 is when I used that period of time to really go deep within myself, decide what I was going to do. So I left my job, I left my country, I left a relationship, and I immigrated to the United Kingdom. But at that time, I'd started meditating regularly. I'd gone for a Reiki session, which I didn't know what was Reiki. And I had a spiritual awakening when I got here. So I think it was this perfect storm of everything that had to happen that kicked it off. But definitely, we know that the United Kingdom, people travel here to come and study mediumship. It's like the
yes. Yes, this place seems to kind of have old bones, really, because, as you say, people come to see the Stonehenge, which Christine is still very annoyed at me for not visiting properly yet. I've driven past it, but I haven't actually been to Stonehenge yet, and I will promise I will go there eventually. Maybe when there's less tourists there early one morning, but I will go there. But there seems to be a lot of history around the spiritual connection, like just thinking back to the days of the Druids, the pagans, all sorts of different things before, the current kind of known modern religions, even though there are pagans in existence today and even Druids as well. It seems to be people here just experience interesting things. It's because, like, for me, like, I've always called myself the reluctant medium. I really didn't want to be a medium and didn't want to admit it. But I had an experience when I was younger, and I've told the story in my previous episodes, but a very abrupt accident happened and it shocked me into this other state, let's just say. And since then, I've just been very switched on, very aware of certain emotions and certain information, which has led me to maybe irritate some people without realizing it, just knowing things that I shouldn't know. When people are trying to keep things secret, though, and thinking that I was a bad person back in the day. But as I've grown older, I began to realize that there are other people out there that can do these things. And it's actually not an evil thing. It's not terrible. It's not cruel or whatever it will be. It's just simply an additional function. At least I see it as an additional function of the human body. It's just making use of the tools that we already have. And some of us are born with those tools already switched on. Most of us really are born with them switched off. And some of them have an event that would happen in their life, whether it be in childhood or adulthood, teenagehood. Is that a thing? Teenage? I don't know. But at some point, there's like a transitional point where it seems to be kind of switched on, and often people find it tends to lead to something, whether it will be helping other people or just simply helping themselves. So, yeah, there's so many fascinating stories around that. I know, Christine, you've had these abilities for a while, though, but I know your journey was more of it seems to be transitionary, because I know you, if it's okay with me saying, like, I knew you were fascinated with like paganism for a while as well, and you seem to kind of have developed and kind of grown from that too. So would you mind, I know you said it before, like saying a bit of your story, if that's okay?
Yeah, I found this with a lot of people I've met that have got to the point of being a medium, that they've also been on a very similar journey. So I did sort of like comparative studies of Judaism, and had a look at lots of other things before gravitating towards paganism, because that kind of felt natural. But I still kept coming back to spiritualism, or call it what felt right, because all those other things, and that included Hinduism, which, I mean, they've got so many gods. I mean, you'll see it when you get to India. So many gods. It's like my favourite one is Ganesha. I've got all of them house. So I explored lots of things, but I just came back to what was right. And then, of course, when things start happening to you, you think it's not just a belief, it's a knowledge that you are experiencing something that you can't explain how you... It's it was a coming to rather than being born with. You hear mediums being born at 5 years old, or that. It wasn't like that for me. It was a gradual exploration of like religion, spirituality, and stuff like that. Hence the reason I went to India a couple of times. Just, and I'll just say, Tammi, I bet when you get it, you will recognize it. It will feel familiar because it was just like I'd come home when I got there. So maybe that's previous lifetimes, I don't know. But yeah, you come to this place and you give a reading to somebody and they go, how do you know that? You go, I don't know how I know that. But you've just given them a piece of information and see that it's connected them. They know that you can't guess that. So it's becoming or having an awareness and getting to that awareness.
No, I get that. No, I've definitely felt that in places. There's certain places, as you described, like it feels like coming home. Like you feel like you've almost been there before, but the before hasn't, to me, been simply just the location itself. It's almost the vibration that location emits. Because I've had that feeling, like the last place I remember feeling that strongly, weirdly, it was a place that I visited for the first time. We went to Tuscany a few years ago and visiting Florence, and I'd recommend anyone go to that city. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's just so steeped in history and the art, and you can feel the vibrations of the earth when you're there. It's almost like you can feel the bodies of the people walking around you though, but you can feel like the other bodies of the other people that had walked before, kind of thing. But when I went there, it was before I admitted to the world that I was a medium in any way or form. But when I went there, there was a moment when I think it was sunset, and I forget where we were though, but it was near where the market is, beside the central square. That I just felt everything come to be, and I remembered this moment where it felt like I came home, that I was safe, I was comfortable. I felt like this place knew me, and I don't know why it happened in that particular place. So maybe it happened because that particular place vibrated at the right frequency, or whatever you might say it is, but it kind of opened something. And I think that was probably one of the first steps towards me beginning to admit and feel this kind of thing. But I think this all kind of links into also the whole 2020 pandemic situation, because I know a lot of people, their lives were kind of turned upside down in many different ways, really. It caused a lot of people to kind of turn into an introspective view and start thinking about themselves and their own lives, because they're spending less time having to work, mainly because they can't work. Certain few people, aside from our lovely doctors and nurses of the day who did an amazing job during the pandemic, a lot of people just reflected on life and started to see things differently and question things. So it seems interesting that you say what you said, Tammi, that seemed to be a time when you were going through that change. So I wonder if like a medium's almost kind of, it's almost like a calling of sorts. Like the earth was going through a lot of changes. There were a lot of turmoil, and it eventually led to different wars and different situations, whatever it might be. It seems to be like a number of people were kind of activated at that time. And I wonder if you guys think, like, was it for a reason, do you think? Or is it more for like a personal reason for you at the moment, though? Do you think it may lead to something better?
All of this is predicted. Like Chico Xavier, a medium, predicted this awakening would happen. And maybe, as Mike said, the pandemic, it's done something, set us off. We need to wake up. We have to wake up. And we have to wake up, because if we don't, we're going to, everything that's going on needs a lot of love put in there. Yeah, it needs to come back into balance. And, you know, I don't want to get difficult, but it's almost like there's all that fighting going on. There's all these lovely people wanting to do good things. But it's like we need to wake up and have something happen to this. And maybe the pandemic, like you say, was the start of it. People started to wake up.
Maybe. It's like the needs of the few make the many fight. And that's the thing. I think people are beginning to wake up to think, you know, the world needs a bit of love, really. Like all these things we've been doing for thousands of years, we're realizing how pointless things are. And there's someone I knew that once often said that there are no winners of war. So even the victor has to pick up rubble. And that's the thing, like, who truly wins with violence and, you know, Yeah, but basically, I think with everything that's been happening, it seems to be like things are kind of being pushed ahead in a way that we're being pushed forward in the way that we think and see the world, and being reminded that it is pointless the way that we have been previously going, where we fought because we believed in different things and different ideas about the world. Begin to realize actually, like, if we actually truly communicated and truly saw each other for what we are, then we can maybe make a better world for ourselves. But maybe this could have been said maybe 2,000 years ago. We just don't really know. I wasn't really alive then, so I don't know if we're just in a repeating situation. But yeah, don't mean to make it such a heavy conversation straight away though. But I find the whole the mediumship switch on period over the last few years quite fascinating, really, because people going through different situations seem to be kind of just suddenly, oh, this thing happened the other day, and this is beginning to connect here, and I'm getting this other information. Like, what's wrong with me? You realize eventually there's nothing wrong with you. It's a perfectly natural thing, really. So yeah, just moving the conversation on to something. So I'd love to kind of get to know more about, Tammi, kind of what you do, basically. So I know you've been running the Manifesting Medium for a little while now, and I'd like to get to know more about that, if that's okay. So, like, how did that come to be, basically, and what's its mission, essentially?
Cute, I love that. My mission now, my tag, my title on LinkedIn is the Chief Magical Officer, and it's a medium on a mission.
Chief Magical Officer. Brilliant, I love that. Yeah.
Since I was young, I didn't have spiritual encounters, but I was always into kindness, love, positive psychology. I wanted to actually be a therapist. So I thought, when I was coming through that period of COVID, I thought, okay, I'm going to become a therapist. So I started going down that route. So I've always loved helping people with their emotional, spiritual, overcoming trauma. If I can do all those things in my life and help other people do that, that would be like my biggest dream. So it's combining all those things. The manifesting medium, it gets also a bit of a bad rap. It's about knowing that you can co-create your life. You can change your circumstances. You know what I mean? You are in control of all these things. Your attitude towards life, how you want to heal. And then obviously the mediumship is connecting to the higher realms and stuff. So the mission of it is to help people empower themselves, and take control of their lives, control of their energy. And we know that energy is contagious. If we want to have that better world that we all aspire to, it starts with ourselves. It starts with getting to know our own generational trauma, getting to understand ourselves, on our self-awareness, how our emotions work. So my mission is just to, spread positive energy and help people empower themselves to create the life that they do, and try and live in peace and harmony, because goodness me, this world is, I read the other day that the suicide rates in the UK are the highest they've been since I don't know when, and that's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, so sad.
So yeah, my mission is just to be that light. The first thing is to be that light for yourself, and then you can be that light for others. So that's exactly my mission.
Yeah, it's quite a noble one, really. Is it so much, at least I experienced in this country, like leading up to the pandemic, there was a push for mental health in terms of just trying to normalize speaking to a psychologist or speaking to a family member or friends, and also teaching others to be receptive of other people's change of behaviors. But sometimes people who are in a bad place don't often exhibit things in an obvious way. Sometimes they seem like very happy, very, very jovial kind of people, really, but deep down inside, you never know what pain they're kind of going through. It seemed to be like when the pandemic happened, like all of that, oh, sorry, we've been saying this thing, we'll forget about that. We'll just focus on obviously making sure we don't spread this disease and everything. And that's obviously, a necessary kind of cause at that point. But it seemed to be like everybody was forgotten in terms of mental health. It's like suddenly everything just kind of fell through, really. And it's so sad to see so many people suffer during that time. I myself experienced terrible mental health during that time, and unfortunately had a very unlucky time with my employer, to say the least, who didn't kind of respect the fact that I've actually diagnosed OCD, which isn't fun to live with, especially in the pandemic when everything is essentially dangerous. So you're trying to avoid an actual real problem. So yeah, at the time it was quite a mad rush, essentially, to kind of keep working, look after the kids and so on. I can imagine there are so many people out there that were in the same situation. But luckily, I'm lucky enough to have a garden to go into. Not particularly big though, but big enough anyway, where I could just take a step out, take a breath, and then come back in. there's so many people out there who live in kind of flats or kind of very small spaces, and it's made illegal to go outside and do certain things. I can imagine how that must have like been terrible for them. But I think we are kind of still dealing with repercussions of that today, and maybe that might be why so many mediums switched on, because for one, I think some people were pushed into situations that were so extreme for them that the trigger was almost like the mutation thing. You're thinking about the X-Men, like when they're put under pressure, their powers awaken, kind of thing. Some people kind of switch on and begin to kind of help others or help themselves. I think others kind of seem to be like, it's a calling of sorts. Well, if other people aren't helping these people, where our governments or whatever it might be aren't helping them, I'm going to kind of step up to the plate kind of thing and actually start doing things about it, though. And yeah, I see. The more mediums, the better. Really, it's a sign of a more hopeful future, I hope.
People, when they're okay, don't listen. They go about their little lives, and it's like it's all an illusion. All the pretty baubles and all the nice stuff. It's a distraction to anything spiritual. So I think what happened with the lockdown was if we were in on our own, yes, maybe we looked at things that we have to look at. Whereas when you got all freedoms in the world, so maybe that's what switched it on. More people were focusing in on that. When people are having a good time, they're going to listen to you. And that's the problem. It would be great if everybody had the awareness that you have. But there's an awful lot of people out there that think that you and me and Tammi are weirdos, right? That we talk. And it's not a fight. It's very difficult getting people to believe or to even listen until it happens to them. And that's why, Tammi, you said something happened to you to make you wake up.
Yes, I had a traumatic experience that made me... So I've shared openly on my social media, it's a big part of my story, is that I grew up, with parents, an alcoholic and a rageaholic, and there was a lot of domestic violence and abuse and stuff. So I had a very traumatic childhood. So that is why I went down the route of self exploration, healing, and all to combat to look after my own anxiety. So when I came here, I actually witnessed some child abuse, and I had to report it to the authorities. And it was almost like it was a trigger, and it triggered me into like fight and flight for 2 or 3 days, because it was a traumatic event to see. It was awful. And for those 2 or 3 days, it was awful. But after about 2 or 3 days, that's when it flicked over. And I always joke and I say it felt like I was on ecstasy for the next 5 days. When the yogis talk about going to that bliss state, that's what happened to me. So it was a traumatic event that triggered that. But afterwards, the script flicked. Let's say it like that. So it went from trauma to complete bliss.
Yeah. I get that. That seems to be like what you really do. You're all about turning essentially a negative into a positive, really, because certain traumatic things and horrible things happen. You do your best to resolve and help things for yourself, but also helping other people. Sometimes it just reminds you, okay, this is how dark and nasty the world can get sometimes. We need more people here to bring a bit of light into it, really. Like, aside from, some people believe in religions and such to help them through that process, and that's perfectly okay. But some people have that connection and know for a fact that there is a lot more, and they're actually, regularly, continuously talking with that additional voice, I suppose, or seeing that wider perspective. And you kind of almost feel like it's a duty to actually kind of go, let's bring some of this positivity back into the world and use it to help people. And I've had, the pleasure of knowing many different kinds of mediums. Penny, who was on our, the last couple of episodes ago, like she's like had quite a traumatic life, and I won't say too much about her story there though. But the stuff that she does now, like she sees physical manifestations, and she's able to communicate with certain beings, let's just say, and share some quite profound knowledge. And there's things that she's told me at certain points in my life when I was beginning to kind of wake up that there are things that she was telling me that even my mum didn't know, and probably hopefully will never know. She will know at some point anyway, though. But kids being kids. But either way, like the fact that some people have such a profound access to a labyrinthian kind of library, even like it can access any information that they need to help that person in that point, is quite an amazing thing. So in a way that I see that, I know there are different kinds of mediums that can do different things. So, but if you can do something like this, I kind of see it as almost like a duty, really, to help others. And I may not do many readings myself. I'm still trying to get to know my mediumistic legs, really, but I try and help people in different ways. And part of it's kind of through this kind of podcast. It's more than just simply practicing speech making and communication skills. I outlet things through art and through conversations I have with people that sometimes it can turn lives around. Sometimes what they tell me can turn my life around too. So, like I say, it's maybe not quite a public service, so it's a calling of sorts, it seems to be. And it just goes to show that we can turn any negative into a positive, really. Like, it's just a matter of pure and harsh will. And it's not easy. It's never easy, though, but it's worth it. And often when you come out of these things, you come out better. Kind of a phoenix rising kind of a situation.
I feel so sorry for these people. It does seem a lot of young men who kill themselves, don't they? And it's just like, darling, you don't know what the future. They must be in such a terribly sad state to not want to keep on living. And there has to be a reason for that. Maybe they can't see that. I remember I was giving a reading to somebody whose friend had hung themselves, and it felt like my head was in a box, like it was on a box, and I didn't know which way to look. So it's a metaphor for that. And then I was just aware that these beautiful souls were there, waiting to take care of this person. It's quite lovely. But, it's so sad that people have to resort to that. And that's because I think there's not a lot of love in the world. You go on things on social media, people are horrible to each other, and if you haven't got this, you're no good. And it's crazy. We never had that in our generation. But the young people must be under so much pressure that we never had, because we just never had social media. And I don't, and there, sadly, it can be abused. And I've heard that there's websites out there that actually encourage people to kill themselves. I give them advice, and that shouldn't be allowed.
So sad. No, it should.
Fill those spaces with positivity rather than all the negative.
We have become the most connected of all times, but we're the most lonely. You know what I mean? Us sitting here having conversations on this, you won't see the younger generation. I always often think about it when I'm driving, like you'll pass a school, you'll pass a bus stop. There's not much talking around. Everyone's looking at their cell phones, or it's just sad. It's become, people are very disconnected at the moment. And like you said, the comparison, the life comparison, you watching these highlight reels of people's lives and think, because people don't put the bad stuff on social media. So it is.
I think spirituality left the world the day religion walked in. Yeah, I think it's done everything. The material world crushes anything that's spiritual. Do you see what I mean by that? People don't have room for spiritual things when they're scrolling through their iPhones. I do it. I can sit here and completely mong out. It's not a good thing. But I can just stay there and it's like an hour's worth.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's kind of like for one, it's escapism, really, because I for myself, I'm kind of privy to, okay, I've just finished a day of work, I just want to mentally switch off. So scrolling through random dog and cats videos, or someone's managed to make an entire house out of cheese, or the next person's decided to explode a wheelbarrow down some sort of random school lane, or whatever it might be. Like, none of it makes any sense. None of it doesn't really interest me, but it's like, they're funny for that moment. And then I realise as I go through that I'm actually doing that just to take a step away, because I myself, I'm a massive overthinker as it comes with OCD. I can't stop thinking and thinking and thinking. So after work, it forces me to take a step back. And for the initial maybe 10 minutes, it does help a lot. And then about half an hour later, I think I spent the last, say, 20 or so minutes from that point. Was that time well spent? I'd much rather kind of sit down and play with my kids and everything, but I kind of need that time to kind of blow off steam that I don't often have. So it's kind of like it's paradoxical, really, because we use it to escape. But at the same time, we want to live so much more, but we're using the technology to escape, to find a way to be able to actually truly appreciate and connect with the world, though. And it's kind of like a wind down device, and that's where the addiction kind of comes in, because they're so inexpensive now. Yeah, Christine.
To be fair, going back a long time ago, men coming into work would have wanted to wind down. You just have an iPhone to get it with that. They might have sat and read a paper, or probably beat their wives, or something horrible like that, or go and get drunk at the local pub. Because you do need to wind down. When I was working, I just come home, have a coffee, and just sit and smoke cigarettes for about an hour. And that was it. And I was fine after that. But I was watching, I think it was in EastEnders. It's quite hard. But it was how I wound up. Didn't have iPhones at this point. So it's just that you have an iPhone now or whatever it is. That's what we did. But yeah, I think mediums. Yeah, I guess we should have more of them. But we need good ones. Not Benidorm Bill.
Yes. Yeah. I know you mentioned the Benidorm Bill kind of stereotype. There are kind of those who kind of, you hate to say that they do kind of prey on others when they're in a very vulnerable place. So sometimes they don't realise that they are. They've almost have been swept up in so much of this. When they get a certain amount of validation, they almost kind of get drunk on, I must think I'm some sort of superhero, and I'm here, and it's almost like they begin to think that they're better than other people because of that. And obviously not realising the fact that this is essentially a tool set that's available to everyone. At least I believe so anyway. I believe we will have the ability to do so. It's just up to us as to whether we choose to switch that on or not. And that does take some effort. Sometimes it takes a terrible trauma, unfortunately. But either way, it does happen. But it's about knowing the difference between like a good and a bad medium. But so what would you guys say? Like, how do you know the difference between a real and not real medium, I suppose? I'm talking about real as in someone who's kind of true and does good there, and not real as in somebody who doesn't do it for the right reasons, I suppose, or there's some trickery there. Do you believe there's like a way that people can know?
Yeah. Don't get any evidence. What you get is general claptrap. That's what I call it. I think for me, mediumship has to have the evidence to back it up. So, X might have happened to this person. If you can pull that out, and it's not like it's physically falling out. If you can give that to the person, there is something going on there. If you have a stranger sat in front of them, say for instance, I have a generic woman my age, got your grandmother in spirit. Yeah, of course, I'm 68, she's bound to be dead. Otherwise, she'd be like 150 or something. Right? That really annoys me, actually. I get really annoyed. You've had a hard life. Yeah, everybody my age looks like this. They've got, you know what I'm saying? It's generalization. It's when you can say to them, I've just got a chestnut horse with a white chest, and I think its name's Holly. And they go, where'd you get that from? Then you know that that's real. It has to be evidence-based. Like when I say to them about Benidorm Bill, they go to somebody and they say, I see a change of career around, just see this, see that. And it's not evidence-based. If you've got contact with spirit, they will give you the information.
And more specific.
It has to be specific. So that's for me. I don't know about how you guys would. Wouldn't you sense it? If you're a medium yourself, wouldn't you know it on a level that you can't explain? Tammi, would you?
Yes, I mean, I come from, like, I was, a lot of my life was in the scientific world, so I need evidence in my daily life. You know what I mean? I'm always reading neuroscience or anything. So for me, a medium would have to give me some really, really good evidence, like some specific. So that's definitely, I would definitely look out for that. And then I guess it's also just about the way the evidence is delivered with care and with um, thought, not just blurted out tragic or traumatic things that you've seen. You've got to also deliver it
Yeah, that's something else. I mean, it's quite a famous medium, and she goes, oh, starts doing all that kind of stuff. Oh, I've got your baby here. And she goes, oh, baby. I think you wouldn't do that. Amazing. What are you doing? You're traumatizing this woman publicly, and your own ego, obviously, it's the ego. Yeah. Sorry, I can be a bit harsh. I did get thrown out of an event. I did get thrown out of an event once. It was at the local pub, and this guy was absolutely loved the body. And so I told him he was. And the landlady went, you got to meet. Yeah.
Blown their cover. But do some people not realize it though? Because some people can get so swept up in these performances that, for example, like some celebrity. I mean, I'm just thinking about, I say like bless him, like Derek Akura back in the day. Because I know we've had conversations about Derek Akura from was it Most Haunted years ago, about when he spent many years working for that show, kind of acting as a medium. And I can't say for sure whether it definitely was real because I wasn't there. The way that he presented himself then seemed real from the real mediums that I have actually seen face to face. But at the end of the show, that they believe that they caught him based on, I think it's something to do with a bed in this location that had a particular story about it. It's a historical kind of story. They swapped the bed with another bed. Yeah, and then they said, "Oh, it's a different bed. So how can you draw from that particular object? So you must be making it up." And there are little kind of things they did to him, like swapping objects and saying certain things that he was beginning to say, like making up history and stuff like that. But it's all about knowing what mediums are, because we can draw from a place full of knowledge. Let's just say, like, I can't exactly say what it is. I don't fully understand it yet, but there's a place out there where we can access so much. Also, we can access things here. We can access things that have happened. We can access things that have happened very recently. So if you make up a fact, you're going to know that fact anyway. It doesn't matter whether you made it or not. The fact is you're picking it up. But sometimes it can be interpreted as, okay, well, I made up this fact and you just must have heard me say it, though, so I'll assume that you read that. And it just seemed really sad back in the day. Like I said, I might be wrong. Maybe he was fake, but I don't believe that he was, from everything that I've seen, the behaviours. But you do get people who just are just completely treated awfully like that.
I saw him years before he was ever on Most Haunted, and it was a program, and they were giving stuff to hold, and then he gave the reading on it, and he was brilliant. And then Most Haunted got hold of it, and it seemed to me like they wanted him to perform, yeah. And I think bless him was under a lot of pressure, and maybe he did know where he was going before he got there. Maybe he had done some research, but what they did to him was very cruel. They should have just said, "Look, you need to go, mate. We know what you're doing." Not out in one of the that's a bang out ball.
Yeah, that could have been a private conversation. So I have a feeling that there was a personal something kind of driving that there. It's like they couldn't ask him to leave that and properly taken down, because it's almost like there's a personal driven thing going on. Let's just say it's maybe competitiveness. Who knows? But yeah.
They say that everybody's got the opportunity at some point in their life, or it's an opportunity to do what we do. Yeah, it's up to them whether they take it or whether they even recognize it. And maybe, somebody like him, he had it anyway, because I feel positive for that. But I think perhaps in a way he misused it because he was put under pressure to perform.
Maybe. So maybe he just didn't realize he could have maybe embellished certain things at certain times, because the show is still treated as entertainment. Ultimately, it's just about we've got to have something to show, so let's throw some objects around the room and make it seem like it's spiritual activity and things like that. But yeah, I'd love to know more about that story though. But sadly, Derek isn't really with us now, so I don't think we'll know the answer straight away. But maybe we could have a chat with him, on the side. Yeah, I was going to ask you, just hopefully kind of moving on to something kind of more positive, really. Like, yeah, Tammi was going to ask you more. So you mentioned about the manifesting medium, about what it's about, essentially. Like, do you have any stories since you started doing that you feel comfortable sharing that you feel has really inspired you, or ways in which you've maybe improved people's lives doing what you do?
Goodness me. Well, let me think.
Sorry, big question.
There's so many stories. So obviously, I've also trained under Jay Shetty, which is like a well-known coach in the industry. So I've worked with a lot of men with their mental health and things like that. So that is, I'm also a medium, but also I coach men predominantly. It's normally in the high performance. So it's funny because they come to me for high performance, but then we land up talking about emotions and fears. And, I think I do have this way of making people feel at ease. Like, I'll I'll be in a restaurant and someone will tell me their whole life story, or like the worst thing that's ever happened to them. If I had like a pound for every time someone has said to me, oh my goodness, I've never told anyone that before, so I feel like my energy makes people feel at home and they can be themselves. But stories, oh goodness, I mean, yeah, I suppose one of my most interesting stories would probably be when I went to Bali, and the gentleman that I was with opened up to me just before we were about to go and let me know that, he was having suicidal thoughts. He was really, really struggling with his father's passing. His father's passing was quite unexpected and quite traumatic for him. And his father was his best friend. And I know that we shouldn't ever, it's like ethical, if someone, a spirit comes through, you don't just pass on a message, you know what I mean? But at this stage, this father came through and he was so panicked about his son. I was like, am I going to say it? Am I not going to say it? So at that moment, I did tell him what his father had told me. And I think it really saved his life, to be honest, because he was like, okay, my father is still around. I can sort out my stuff. And after that, he trusted me a lot more, and we spoke about emotions and that. And after that, he turned to me and said to me, once I was invited to go for intense therapy and I said no, but now I think I'm really ready to go do it. So that story will stick with me forever. So I know we're not supposed to pass on messages, but I had to I had to think about this. Like, what if I do tell him, what is this going to do? And at that stage, I won't just walk up to random strangers and give them messages or anything like that. But at that time, it was almost like an intervention, it felt like. So, yeah, that is probably the one story.
I'll be absolutely honest with you. I would say that he was intervening. And I get the thing, you don't go up to complete strangers. But, you were there with that guy. And that was the only route that his father could get through. Why wouldn't he use you? Why wouldn't he use you? Because he knew that you were receptive and you were open. Absolutely. But it helped, didn't it?
It did. So yes. And then I had something happen recently, and I thought about you, Christine, because I know in your book you write about York. So I was at a dog show in the Midlands, and I was standing in for a colleague. So I'm working the pet industry during the day, and I was at the dog show where they take the breeders, where they show their dogs, all these top pedigree dogs. And there was this woman and her young daughter that walked past me, and this young daughter made eye contact with me. And I don't know if you've ever seen pedigree dog shows. They'll push the dogs in, it looks like a tent on wheels. You can't really see it, it's closed. And she looked at me. She went into the little thing that she was carrying all these white dogs in, and she pulled out this Yorkshire Terrier, and she shoved it in my hands out of the blue. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And then she left. And then her mom came to me and said to me, we're having a discussion, and she's having this thick Yorkshire accent. And I said, it's so funny because my first dog back in South Africa was a Yorkshire Terrier. And then I said to her, and we're carrying on talking, I was holding the dog, and then I said to her, and her name was Dakota. And as I said that, this woman's face, like it looked like she was going to faint. And she said to me, that is so strange, but my young daughter has been calling this dog Dakota all day, and that is not the dog's name. And I have had to correct her a few times.
Yeah. That's incredible. It's like that. So sometimes I swear that there are these moments of synchronicity where, you know, I've heard so many theories about the way the universe works, though, but everything seems to be interconnected. So we could be on two sides of the planet, maybe the other side of this solar system even. Either way, everything seems to kind of fall into place where there are certain nudges at certain times, whether it be kind of matching names or similar stories, or I don't know, you just happen to meet your exact twin. You happen to live in a different part of the world who just happen to grow up to be exactly the same kind of person that you are. You're brought together by a chance meeting by two friends, like maybe like a friend that just happens to know both of you. Things like that just tend to kind of happen. Like I sort of always remember like the moment that when my life changed, like for the better, like I was at the end of this relationship, and yeah, meant to be with somebody who seemed perfect and amazing and all that. Thought I'd be that person forever, and long story short, not so much. So decided to kind of end it there. And at that point in my life, I thought, you know, I'm trying to become a designer. No one wants to hire me. It doesn't matter how good I am. Everything's kind of miserable at home. I'm so fed up of doing my day job working in the shop. So I used to work at this frozen food store, which is a fun job in itself, though. But I thought I just want to do a bit more of my time now, and you know, maybe have a challenge. And I was kind of going nowhere at that time. But as I was kind of on the train back from splitting up with this girl that I was with, these two people sat next to me, and I think I mentioned on a few podcasts ago the story, though, so I don't care if I'm repeating myself because it's such a happy story. I was kind of in a bad way, just feeling so miserable. I felt like, you know, life isn't really going anywhere. I'm never going to go forward. I felt useless and rejected and all these kind of different things that any normal person would go through. I was the only person sat in this train carriage going back home. And this lady and her daughter sat directly next to me. There's like a row of three, basically. So they could have sat anywhere. No, just had to sit next to me. So at first I felt really annoyed. I think just go away, leave me alone. I just want to be grumpy and just do my own thing, just let it all out. No, they were relentless. So they told them their names. Oh, yeah, here's my daughter. She's studying at XY university, and she's doing this course. And my name's such and such. We live at this place. And they kept talking and talking. The train ride was an hour and a half, going on 2 hours because it was delayed by that point. They talked the whole way, and I barely said much. And eventually I began to kind of get into the conversation and get involved, you know, a while in. But for some reason, they just seemed to know that I needed some help. And I'm used to kind of helping other people, though, but somebody was there to help me, and they recognized something. And by the time I arrived at the station, we had the end of that conversation, and, you know, everything was kind of done there. I kind of got up ready to go, and I didn't feel upset. I felt like in a terrible state when I left, though, but when I arrived there, I felt like there was hope, like the tiniest glimmer of hope. And I just felt like something told me I have my entire life ahead of me. You can achieve anything. You don't need to hinge your life on a few pieces of bad luck, let's just say. And I wanted to turn around to thank these two people, and they just disappeared. And it was really bizarre because I stepped out onto like a very busy platform, and there's only one door we could have left. I looked and they were gone. So I don't think there were ghosts. Maybe there were, I don't know though, but I think maybe I wasn't paying attention properly. But I wanted to say a personal thank you because I think I began to realise that this was the start of something, and they knew something. But yes, since then, like, you know, I managed to find my first job as a graphic designer finally. And if anybody knows the industry, it's a very hard industry to get into if you don't have special connections, let's just say. And, you know, eventually, like, you know, I became more confident. I started to learn about the world, learn about other beliefs, and connect more and go out more with my friends. And eventually I met my, you know, then wife now. My whole life just blossomed from that very moment. And you never know if this new person that you're meeting on the train, or maybe stuck in a traffic jam, just somebody parks next to you in the same jam, and you can both be grumpy about the jam together and just keep talking. Sometimes it's the talking and the meeting that can transform a life. And it's just amazing that, though. So I'm always think how grateful I am to those two people that happened to snap me out of it just at the right moment, where maybe I could emit maybe a higher frequency, let's just say, and start to push myself forward. And yeah, it didn't just happen by magic. I worked really hard to get all of those things, and it was all about a mindset shift. So it goes to show, like, you know, there are many men and women out there, like, who are going through awful times, and they're just not talking about things. And sometimes we're in such a lower, we call them the lower vibrational states though, but generally people just say negative states. But when you're in that, you're stuck in a loop, and it's very hard to get yourself out of it though, because it becomes so much like there's a higher gravitational pull. Sometimes there's that additional body, the additional body in the planetary system, let's just say, just gets near enough to you to start pulling you out of that negative state. And that shows the importance of human connection, really. So yeah, we have these devices that distract us, and it's taking that power away from us. You'd be surprised how much like a quick conversation with a complete stranger can change your life. Now, I've spoken to strangers in the past just because I wanted to, and I've probably really annoyed a few of them. Some conversations don't go particularly too well, but sometimes I just look at people and think, you look like you need a bit of a chat, or just at least a nice hello. And most of the time, it's quite a nice positive response. I try to reignite the part of Oxford that I grew up in. People used to say, "Hello, my duck," used to be the phrase they used to say, but they don't say it so much now. So I always make sure when I go back, basically, if I see someone walking down the street, now no one says hello to each other. I always say, "Hello, my duck," to see if they are still the people that used to be there that I used to know growing up. Most of the time, I get a very confused look, thinking, "Why are you calling me a duck?" But at least, I think at the very least, people say hi back or "Hi, how are you?" But I kind of miss that expression, "my duck," because people used to say "my duck" or "my love" a long time ago, but it's not quite so much the case over here now. But yeah.
So, you met two people on a train for a tiny, tiny part of your life that how impactful they were. Same with you, Tammi, and that dog. That's just bloody bizarre, that is.
It is, isn't it? I was thinking about it before, because I was watching some mediums that I really aspire to, and I love watching their work and stuff. And they were bringing through pets, and me having such a special connection to animals, I was wondering, me with my evidence, how would that work for me if I had to see a pet? And then literally that next day or 2-3 days later, this literally, and I'll show you the pictures afterwards. The dog that I'm holding, because I took a picture with the dog afterwards, because I was shaking, looks exactly like my dog that passed away in South Africa. Exactly. And this little girl that gave me that dog, I mean, she must have been so psychic. How she was calling, the mother was like, she's been calling this dog Dakota all day, and I didn't know why.
Weird, isn't it? Maybe that's because this greater consciousness, we can access it, and she had access that and have knowledge of that. I don't know that sounds crazy. I don't know how it works, but that's what I think happens. That's what I think mediumship is. When we're doing a reading, I believe somehow we dip into that consciousness, and somebody is helping or getting the information. I don't know, but it's going to be great when we get over there, because we can find out, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, how do you do it? How do you do it? I don't know how it's done.
I think because we're kind of entering I've said it a few times before, and you guys are going to laugh at me now though, but maybe in 100 years I think we'll know though. I think we're at the early stages of the next renaissance. Talk about the next renaissance of science, technology, philosophy, general understanding of the universe, because I think there are some kind of comparables kind of coming into play where we're acquiring new knowledge and newer views of the universe. Even just thinking about the amazing kind of James Webb telescope is able to look so far into the universe, because we all know
I was thinking about that before you said it.
Yeah, I knew that you were. That's why. Yeah, I had a strong feeling. Yes. Sorry, Christine. I don't mean to spoil your surprise. No, because it's because we're talking about light speed, basically. The speed light travels, and obviously travel. We're talking about a certain distance, so there is a possibility that you can travel far out enough away from this planet and this solar system and so on, that you can see the very beams of light that left the planet at the very beginning of the Earth's existence, and maybe further back than that. So you think that amazing James Webb telescope, the further it can look out into the universe, the further back in time it goes. Because imagine if it's able to travel that distance and then look back at where the light came from. You're essentially looking back in time. So this telescope, as it looks further out, it's able to see the furthest edge. Actually, I might not be right there though, but I think it's able to see quite further along than before, but I don't think it can see right up to the edge. But either way, it's proving the theory that light will have a finite distance traveled, away from this particular location where we're currently sat. So essentially, you can go further enough out to look at the very kind of creation of this planet and the solar system. You imagine like how much knowledge that would bring to us. But I think there are things that are happening now that are kind of breaking apart our previous understanding of the universe. So especially like, was Einstein or Stephen? I think that's Stephen Hawking kind of theorized the black hole based on his equations. He said, well, by the way I understand physics to work, there is a possibility that there is an endpoint somewhere in the universe where there is something that would operate as what I describe as a black hole, and obviously explain the dynamics and the way that would work. And yet, I think it was after his death, a couple of years after his death, they actually managed to take the first photo of a black hole. And there's so much within our knowledge itself that allows us to explore without physically exploring. That's beginning to kind of, show actually, look, because of these kind of predictions, let's just say, educated predictions, though, we're seeing is real. Like, even that in itself is allowing us to expand further and beyond. So now we have this amazing technology. It's able to validate those additional perceptions. So hence why I see like our technology is evolving at such an exponential rate that the way that we see the universe is going to vastly change, which is going to help us as humans as well. But I know me and Christine have been talking about the whole disclosure thing that's happening at the moment, though. But we will definitely do an episode about that. So I don't want to go into that too much. But yeah, we're beginning to kind of understand about other things happening in the universe, other intelligences. Is intelligence a word? Intelligences? But anyway, other bodies out there. But either way, we're beginning to kind of learn more about the way things work, really. And I think it's such a wonderful time to live in right now. So like I say, it's the start of the next renaissance. And with that comes a switch on of all these different people across this planet, really, where people are beginning to switch on, question their lives, question the way they're living. And I'm hoping it's going to evolve to a more peaceful state where we're more open to taking more knowledge, more information, just get going. Change our lives, really.
Maybe it's because we do have access to the internet. Although there isn't good stuff a lot, maybe the force of good will become overwhelming because so many of us. You see what I'm saying? And the more people that wake up or just become aware of the thing, these madmen, these rulers and megalomaniacs and all the rest of it, they will just get overwhelmed with love.
Yeah.
That's maybe that's the hippie in me, right?
I love it.
Don't give that a hippie.
It's almost like, good can overcome evil all the time. Yeah? I mean, you've got these little people who run these countries and then do whatever they do, horrible things to other people. When we realise, the individual realises how powerful we are, those people just reflect away. Gandhi said it, be the change. Be the change. And by the way, that's great autobiography to read. I read it when I was in India. Brilliant. Yeah.
So what's the name of the biography again? Just cut out there.
Well, it's Gandhi's. I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head.
I'll see if I can find the link for it and put it in the comments for this video.
He used to sneak out at night. He used to sneak out at night as a young man to eat meat because his parents were Jains. Yeah, so it was kind of like where we used to go out to smoke pot or take some acid. He's going out and eating meat. This is terrible because he's a Jain. And his parents found out about it. Anyway, but the Gandhi we see going around, very simple man with the rope, apparently when he used to like his ladies, and he talks about how selfish he was with his wife. He pestered her for sex all the time. Well, this is Gandhi.
Yeah, he takes a little bit of the same.
It really didn't. And he talks, it's about how he evolved into who he became in the real eye-opener weaponry.
That sounds interesting. I like it.
Yeah. I'd like
to know more about him.
I like something like that. But, yeah. So, Yeah, we got to wake up. And I think mediums can show people the way. You know, if you had said to me, if I was somebody off the street, and you said to me, I can talk to dead people, there is things out there, you can't see them, but you've got to believe that they're there. How difficult is that to get your head around?
No, but I think you make a good point, because I think once you begin to kind of open your mind to the way the universe kind of truly works and just be a student all over again, essentially, it changes the way that you manage your own life. Because before I knew what I was struggling to understand, because it was quite scary sometimes. I'd see certain things and it just wasn't really fun. I used to have like quite an angry kind of attitude, really, and I think in a way it kind of invited certain things to happen anyway, because it left me open to kind of negative entities of sorts, let's just say. But I was very kind of a bit angry with the world, really, because I felt like, I had quite a hard time at school, because, comes as no surprise, I was bullied very badly at school. But coming out of school, I felt very angry. Like, all I wanted was my education. I absolutely love learning. I genuinely I love the smell of a classroom or a lecture theatre, and just being in there learning. There's something amazingly empowering about being in those places. But having to sit in an environment like that, where everything's being thrown at you, everything that can be done to kind of stop you from learning is being done. Obviously, not just me, others as too. It made me kind of very kind of angry at the world, thinking like, why can't you let me just be what I want to be? Why is it such a crime? I'm not doing anything to you. All the people go through these kind of thoughts at that age, and as well as that, they're grappling with themselves, because in the kind of teenage years, you're kind of becoming that newer version of you, as your abilities change physically and you can do different things. And I was in quite a negative state for quite a few years, really. Like, I was angry at the world because of an accident that I went through when I was a kid, thinking, I lost my childhood really to PTSD, essentially, and depression, and all these horrible little things that stopped me from just being a normal kid, just wanted to have a normal time. And we all have these different things that kind of pull us into these states. But as I began to finally accept what I was and start just paying attention, I'm going to start listening now, and okay, this thing's given me something. I'm going to just trust that it's correct and it's okay, and start doing that. I then began to slowly change as a person. I started to go, actually, and I told my story before, I left the religion that I was part of back then because it wasn't making me happy. It made me feel like what I was a bad, person, essentially, because I could talk to these things. Bizarrely, for some reason, it was okay to speak to a dead person who's been dead for thousands of years. That's okay, but I'm not allowed to speak to anybody else who could be dead for a few thousand years. But I began to become more of a seeker of knowledge. Basically, I started to learn about other religions, other kind of philosophies, and other non-beliefs, and so on. And then, as I began to kind of own what I was and the abilities that I had, I became a much more understanding person. I became a lot less angry, because I began to see more into why other people are so angry, because I dealt with so many bullies over the years for all sorts of different reasons. I began to kind of feel sorry for them, and I kind of came to a point where I started to say bullies need love too, because we can always respond to them with such anger and just reflect whatever they're throwing at you back at them, kind of thing, and just reciprocate and keep that cycle going. But it's when you're smart enough to take a step aside and think you only know them at that immediate state. You don't know what's going behind that projectile that's been thrown at you that could have led them to that particular point. They could have had an argument with their parent, though. There could be abuse that they're going through. There could be a certain physical ailments that could be kind of hurting them, all sorts of different things. It doesn't excuse people doing bad things to you, though, but understanding the context of the situation can change your life, really. So now, I do encounter very irritating people, let's just say, but I'm a lot more patient now and more forgiving, to the point where sometimes, I see people explode with anger, maybe like the classic road rage situation. I see them drive off, and I really feel sorry for them. I keep thinking like how horrible it must be for them to live with that, because I can experience that person in that moment in time and hear them shouting and squealing and, honking the horn and trying to drive into the back of whichever vehicle, whatever, the usual childishness. But they have to take that home with them. I don't have to deal with that. Once they're gone, they're gone. So now when I deal with people who kind of present me with anger, I ask the questions. Sometimes I ask them, sometimes you have to wait for the right moment because you might get punched in the face. But sometimes just let them take a breath for a moment and then asking them, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Can sometimes be a very disarming question. And like enhancing your perspective in life can allow opportunities more for peace, which is kind of what I hope more for humanity, really. Like, we create all these ways to divide each other, whether it be country, whether it be the color of your skin. Like, my skin color is just down to a chemical that's on my skin. It's got nothing to do with anything. We're all humans, we're all people, we're all beings. It's got nothing to do with anything. Some people fight because they have opposing football teams, on their walls, posters on their walls. Some people fight because of their favorite bands. One person likes the Spice Girls and the next person likes All Saints. Oh, let's just fight about it. And so we create all of these different kind of barriers that we just don't really need. And I think kind of mediumship in a way is like just another way where we can realize actually we can see way beyond all these barriers, and all of it's complete BS, quite frankly. Like, we make all these problems ourselves. So yeah, I'm just kind of hoping we're going to go in that direction over time. But I'm glad I don't feel so angry now. I feel a lot happier. And in a way, I love the experience the horrible things I experienced. I kind of love that they happened, because if they didn't happen, I wouldn't have the abilities that I have now. I wouldn't have the understanding that I have now from those experiences. And yeah, I do have a few physical scars and some kind of ailments that kind of irritate me to until this day, really. But things could have been so much worse, really.
And that's how when you get to enlightenment, when you see that, when you become aware, instead of hating what's happened to you, you turned it around and now see it for something else.
Yeah, I get a lot of joy from helping other people, kind of having these kind of conversations, really, because it's nice for one to see that I'm not the only person thinking like this. But also, like, I love the fact that sometimes I have just the right conversation with somebody at just the right time, and it seems to just leave them in a much better state than they were before. And I feel very privileged to be a tiny, tiny, tiny part of that person's journey. Just like, they're a part of my journey. Like, we all learn together. Yeah. But that's also kind of what moves us away from also the media and everything. Like, we see things on TV where things are exaggerated and made to seem much worse than they really are. And when you get to a certain state, you start to realize what isn't real, that the news platforms that present certain stories to you, a lot of it is entertainment. It's an act. It's not news. So people tend to respond more to negativity. So they'll feed you negativity. I think true happiness comes from really understanding what the world that is in this world really is, and knowing kind of which is performance, which is true fact, true reality. And I think people are a lot more kinder than the media presents to us. So yeah, definitely switching off is a good thing. So with me saying that, I'm going to try and use my phone less for distractions and try and find other healthier ways, because when you're on your phone, you do accidentally come across negative things. So yeah, over time, I kind of look forward to doing that. I suppose I don't want to go on too long. So I know Tammi, I'm trying to make sure we don't go too late into the night. So I want to ask you both, and I've asked it many times before, Christine, though, but I'm going to ask one more time if that's okay. So asking Tammi first. So what advice would you give to other people who want to be a medium, or who are kind of grappling with the idea of being a medium? Like, is there anything that you can share from your experiences?
I think the first thing is to make sure that the spiritualism of self is the most important. You've got to understand yourself first. You've got to go through all those things, work on yourself, and then find people that know a little bit more about it than you do, and ask for advice if you join a circle, and get around like-minded people where it is practice, people with good ethics. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. I mean, circles can be kind of quite hard to find, but I think maybe easier than they used to be, because we have the internet now. So I know ours was kind of online, but I do kind of prefer doing it in person though, because I've been a member of a couple before. But it's simply just all about learning with other people, quite simply, and just sharing those experiences. And but there are a few books that I read that kind of opened me up to the idea of it. Like, was it? I think Vex King I read a couple of years ago, and it's not an exclusively spiritual book, but it presents spiritual concepts. And I think it was called Good Vibes, Good Life. Have you both read that book by any chance? You've read that one, yeah? It's great. It's great, isn't it?
It's about manifesting as well, the law of attraction.
Yeah, manifesting, because essentially it's in science as well. Every particle in the universe vibrates. Everything vibrates at different frequencies. If things no longer vibrate, they don't exist within this reality. So everything kind of emits certain things. It's like you think opera singers, when they sing at just the right frequency, they vibrate at the same level that glass can do, and with the glass obviously being so weak at certain points, smashes. This is kind of similar concept, really. So if you're able to raise your vibration, this is what the book presents anyway. If you're able to raise your vibrations, you're able to simply attract and affect things that are of a vibration that will be better for you. So essentially, if you're walking about in a bit of a grump, you're going to attract grumpy people. I mean, not, with that being said, it's not saying that it's your fault, but you're attracting things. It's about recognizing, okay, I'm in a low vibrational state. I need to really work on ways to actually increase that vibration and heighten it, essentially. But that book, I definitely recommend it to anyone really who's kind of having a hard time. Just at least kind of introduce you to the concept of spirituality. And there are kind of some links to the scientific world in the way it explains certain things as well, which I thought was quite interesting. But he's a lovely guy. I kind of follow him on my social channels, and he just has some really kind of cool messages. So yeah, bless him. Yeah. So how about you, Christine, as well? Is there any advice you want to give to anybody who thinks there might be a medium, or wants to know more about what this whole thing is?
Absolutely agree with what Tammi said. Go for it. Find somebody to let you talk to you, with friends, put yourself out there and meet other people. Do it. Just do it. But be true to yourself and be true to spirit, because, I think it's quite a heavy responsibility. Don't do it for money. Don't do it for fame. Want to help people, because if you're doing it for anything else, you're doing it for the right reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, make a living out of it. But what I'm saying is, be true. Be true to who you are. And be ethical. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. No, I think you both said it brilliantly.
So my thing is, if you believe in the spirit world, you can't be anything but ethical, because you know that when you go over, if you've done something, they're going to get you for it. Remember that.
It's a bit of karma, isn't it?
Karma, don't make things up. If you're not getting it, say you're not.
Yeah.
Just
you're often being watched.
Yeah. If you've got a guide, if we've all got guides, I think we believe we have, and your guide stood off to the side and you're giving somebody a load of BS, at some point you've got to account for that.
Yeah. It seems to be you're often your own judge most of the time. Like, there's no devil and angel on your shoulder. Anyway, but no, thank you both for being here tonight. It means the world that you both took the time out to have this conversation, and and good luck on your adventure tomorrow, Tammi. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic time. And keep safe and have fun.
You're gonna have a blast. It's gonna be wonderful, and I can hear them now as they come out the ashram, and they're all going down, and it's beautiful, and it's all done at sunset.
Thank you. It was so lovely to see you both. It started this 2 years ago, so it was so. I mean, you talk about synchronicities, how life sets you up with like-minded people. I mean, here we go. It's possible. So when you're ready, the universe, God, your angels, whatever you want to call it, will set you up, and things will be brought to you.
I totally believe that, Tammi. I really, really do. I used to know an old lady who said, "What's coming your way will not pass you by," and she was right. If something's supposed to happen in your life, like it's supposed to meet, I don't know, your wife, rather, it'll happen. You're meant to meet those two people on the train so they can see conversation, make you feel better by the time you got. All these things, I believe, is kind of like a blueprint that we follow. Free will takes stuff on another course sometimes. But yeah,
yeah, and look how far you've come, Tammi, as well in that 2 year period. That's the most amount of transformation I've seen. Is, if fair play to you, like coming to this country as well to start new and do different things as well in itself is a very brave thing to do, and you've done exceptionally well. I know you've had a few kind of unlucky cards dealt, but I think you've turned those cards around into your own lucky cards as well. So yeah, all the power to you.
Okay, lovely people. It was so lovely to catch up with you again.
Good.
Absolutely. You have a lovely evening. Bye, guys. Take care.